So glad you could join us. Today we're gonna be making fresh pasta. So I'm gonna show you how to make a dough for a fresh pasta, and then we're gonna go through a few different shapes. So this is the traditional way to make fresh pasta with just flour, eggs, and a little bit of salt. So we're gonna start, just make sure you have a nice clean workspace. I recommend just going directly on your countertop is probably the easiest. Or you can just put out a big cutting board and then work directly on there. So we're gonna start with our flour. In this bowl, I have 400 grams by weight of flour. I'm using 00 flour, but you can really, for pasta dough, doesn't really matter what kind of flour you use. So we're gonna start, this is 400 grams by weight, roughly 3 cups of flour. So that's gonna go right on the counter. And then I'm gonna use my hands just to kind of push it out, make a well in the middle. Next, what I'm gonna do is I have 4 eggs. So we're just gonna break the eggs directly into the middle, and then using a fork, we're just gonna beat them lightly. So we're gonna add our eggs in now. We're just gonna use a fork, kind of break up the yolks. Try to keep it inside the little well you made of flour. That's just so cleanup is a little bit easier. Now into this, I'm just gonna add a few pinches of sea salt, and then we're gonna just go right back to mixing it with our fork. We're gonna just start mixing in some of the flour. So what I like to do is just use the fork, kind of push in some of the flour just so we can start to build a kind of a paste before we start to mix it by hand. So now that we kind of have this paste here, what I'm doing is I'm just kind of starting to break down the well that we built, just starting to incorporate all of the flour that was used to kind of contain all the eggs. Just using the fork to scrape everything off the counter. So still gonna be using the fork for another minute or two just so it kind of all comes together. All right, so now that we have this kind of ball of dough here, I'm just gonna go and just kind of build the wall around it again. Clean off the fork. Next, we're gonna just start using our hands. So we're gonna take the flour, fold it in. It might look too soft or too dry right now, but once you keep kneading it, it'll all come together. So the way that we knead dough, now that everything is pretty much all combined here, so we're gonna do is using the palm of our hand, we're gonna push it out to flatten it, and then pull it back and fold it over itself. Then we'll just rotate it 90 degrees, push our palm to flatten it, fold it over itself, rotate. So now we're gonna continue doing that for it'll probably take about 10 to 15 minutes. This is looking good here. We're gonna continue kneading this for about, I would say 5 more minutes, and the dough will be completely smooth. So this is our finished ball of dough. You can notice it's completely smooth all the way across. And a good test to know if the pasta's done kneading is if you just take your finger, imprint it, see how it springs up quickly like that? That's exactly what you want. You want it to be elastic, be able to spring up and kind of go back to form. That's when you know it's ready. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna just cover it loosely in plastic wrap, and we're just gonna let it rest on the counter for about 15 minutes. So this here is my pasta rolling machine. If you don't have one of these, you can still make the pasta and you can just roll it by hand. It's really simple. We're gonna cut it in half. And then we're gonna cut it into chunks here. So like 3 or 4 chunks per side. is good. This is just so it's a little bit more manageable. So if you're rolling this by hand, just with your rolling pin, I would just form this into a ball. You can put it right onto your counter again. You probably won't even need flour. And then you can just roll it out by hand. So you're just gonna put it down, kind of make a little rectangle and just roll forward, and back, so that it'll be one long rectangular sheet. So I'm gonna do it in here just because it's a little bit easier for me. Just put the handle right into the side here. We start on the lowest function and then you just roll it all the way through, and you can see how you get a sheet like this. Then you bump it up, you go up one setting, you put it back into the machine, you roll it again, and so on and so forth until it's a long, thin sheet. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna just show you how to make a few different types of pasta, of long pasta. So now that the sheet's a little bit longer, this is on setting number 5. Now we can start flouring it. Just put a little pinch of flour, sprinkle it on top, and then just kind of brush it off with your hands. Just want to get a little coating just so it doesn't stick to the machine. As it gets thinner, it tends to become more sticky. So you're going to do that on both sides. Once you're all the way rolled out, what you're going to do is you're going to take the top end, fold it over like that. All right, and then you're going to go through the machine one more time. So what you have here is just a nice long lasagna sheet, essentially. So what you can do to just square it up, you could just use this, cut the ends off, right? And then you can just cut along, right along here. Cut it all the way down, just so it's a nice square sheet. Don't throw out the scraps, these are all still good. We can roll them back into new dough. All right, so this is our first type of pasta, is lasagna. So this is a perfect lasagna sheet. You're just gonna boil this for a couple minutes before, and then you'd make a lasagna like you normally would. Now on to our second type of pasta. If we were to go back to the machine, flip it over, it has these two compartments here. This bottom one would be for like a thicker pasta, like a fettuccine, and then this top one would be for like a spaghetti or linguine. So we'll just attach this onto here. You just kind of drop the sheet in while you're rolling it, and all this does is this cuts it into long strands. I like to put them out onto the counter or onto a tray and just kind of sprinkle some flour on top of them. Just toss them into the flour so that they don't stick to each other. Now, if you don't have a machine that can cut, you can still make long pasta. There's actually a few ways we can make long pasta. So we're gonna do one of those right now. We can take now that we're done with this, we'll just take our attachment off. Go back over here and basically just start the process all over again. We're gonna put it back into the machine, roll it out so that we have one long sheet, and then we can cut it. And the thickness, you're probably looking for about 2 to 3 millimeters thick. You can kind of see on that piece, it's not incredibly thick, but you don't want it too thin so then it falls apart. So I'm gonna roll out the sheet. So now we have our other sheet of pasta here. And what we can do, since it's pretty long, this is about, I would say, 1.5 feet long. So we're gonna just cut it in half. We'll save this piece for later. You can find one of these rollers for about $5 online or at a cooking store. And what this does is just a really, really simple way to rolling out a long pasta shape. So this is for like a pappardelle shape, which is good with a meat sauce. So basically what you do works just like a rolling pin. You just kind of have to go push it along. And what you have here, you have this other nice, long, thick shape of pasta. A little bit of flour, put it on top. Just kind of toss it into the flour. Okay, so with our other half of pasta, we're gonna do some flour. This, you're looking for a little bit more flour because we're gonna actually be rolling it up. We don't want it to stick to itself. So flour on both sides. What we're gonna do is just take the end. We're gonna roll it up about an inch. Do that again, all the way until we roll it all the way up. Now we have this, just using a bench scraper or using a knife, just kind of cut the ends off so that they're perfectly square. And then you can just go through and cut however thickness you want. So like if you did a thick one like this, it would be like a pappardelle that we just made, or you can go really thin. It'll be closer to like a linguine. So this is another really easy way if you don't have any tools. You can just roll it up and cut it. I'll make like a tagliatelle, which is about halfway between fettuccine and a pappardelle that we just made. So there we go. Just like that. Then all you have to do is unroll it. You don't even need to throw this one in flour because it's already pretty floured up already. We just have it here. This is another easy shape to make. This one looks a little bit more rustic because it's not as perfectly clean cuts as the other ones are. All right, next we're moving on to this dough piece right here. Go back, do the same thing, roll it into the long sheet. So another cool shape that we can make once we roll out our sheet, what we're gonna do, just kind of eyeball it, make it into somewhat of a square, doesn't need to be perfect. And then what you're gonna do is just kind of quarter it. So they're about, I would say, a square inch. So once you have your little squares here, you're just gonna take one, and I have here just a wooden dowel. So what I'm gonna do, just kind of move these out of the way. Using the dowel, I'm gonna put one corner of the square underneath it, and then I'm just gonna pick it up, roll it across. So then you kind of have like this cool tube pasta shape. Kind of roll it. It's gonna take you a couple tries to get it perfect. So that is this is a type of short pasta. If you don't like long, you're just gonna go across, do them to all. Pretty simple. Another thing that you can do with these sheets is if you take one of these squares here, cut it in half, and then just kind of using your thumb and your pointer finger, you can pinch the middle, get bow ties or farfalle pasta. This is a fun one, really easy too. Just kind of pinch it. You want to make sure you pinch it and then kind of push it down just so that it sticks. You have those there. Another thing that we can do with our squares is we'll just take them, put two corners together. I like to fold it inside. And then with the other two corners, just kind of take them, make a bend right in the middle, and just bend them together. And you get this shape here. So again, we're gonna take corners, put the corners in the middle, and then take these two sides here, bend them together. And then this type of shape would be good in like a soup or something. So next what we're gonna do is we're gonna take another one of our dough chunks here. Just kind of roll it out with your hands. By now, if the pasta's starting to dry, what you can do is get a little bit of water on your fingers, a tiny bit, and just use that. It'll make it a little bit stickier, so it's easier to work with. So we're just gonna roll it out. Okay, so what we're gonna do, just take a small piece. I'm gonna actually cut off the end pieces, so we're just working with the middle here. Small piece just like this, right? And using one of these, I don't know if you've seen these before, this is actually what they use to roll gnocchi. But with gnocchi, you just kind of use your finger and you roll it down like that. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put this little piece on here, and then using our bench scraper, have the piece under here. You're just gonna slide it, put it in the top, and just slide it across. And you'll get this. It's really simple. It looks kind of fun. And you can go all the way down the line with this. And just roll it out like that for all of them. One final shape that you can do with one of the long thinned out pieces, just cut it. It's like a 2-inch long strip like this. And then you're just gonna kind of roll it, but roll it at an angle. Doesn't need to be perfect. So then what we're gonna do, just kind of pinch the bottom so that it stays. Then in your hand, just really quickly rub them together, and then you get that. So these over here, these are all of our finished pasta shapes, everything that we experimented with. I challenge you to not only try these, but also to just try your own, make your own shapes, watch videos online, learn different ones. You can really have a lot of fun doing this, and it's always fun to eat something that you've made. So for most of these, the longer ones, they're gonna be about 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minute cooking time in boiling salted water. You'll know basically, just always taste it to know when it's done. You know the doneness. And also when they float to the top of the pot, you'll know they're done. Same thing with these. This will be a little bit longer because they're thicker. I would say 5 to 6 minutes on those. But again, when they float to the top, just check to make sure they're done. One final thing for any pasta sheet, or if you have any leftover dough that you can use, all you need to do is wrap it in plastic wrap for the dough, or these can go in a Tupperware just with a little bit of flour, and you can freeze those for up to 2 months whenever you want to use them. The dough is good if you wrap it, you can freeze it and then just defrost it a day before you want to use it, or you can keep it in the refrigerator for 2 to 3 days if you plan to use it, sooner. So thanks everyone for watching, and happy cooking. You